Hello and welcome to Planet 40k. Today we're going to be checking out the C'tan Shard of the Nightbringer, what he brings to us Necron players and how he synergizes with the new Necron Codex. So just before we start the review, I wanted to kindly ask you to hit that big red subscribe button below, as currently 68.1% of viewers watching our videos are not actually subscribed. It helps us tremendously with boosting the channel within the whole YouTube algorithm system and keeps us doing what we're doing. So thank you very much if you're doing that now. Okay, so for the Nightbringer then, I've been wanting to do this review for quite a while actually. Along with the Demon Soul Grinder, it's probably one of my favourite all-time models in the game. Right then, so he's an elite option within the Codex, comes in at 18 power level or 350 points, and your army may only include one of this model. As for keywords, he is a monster, he is a character, and he's got the fly keyword, and he's obviously got the C'tan Shard keyword. So C'tan Shards cannot join any dynasty code, but they can still be placed within a detachment, and it won't affect your dynasty that you're using. They don't gain any benefits from the dynasty code, and also only one C'tan Shard can be selected per detachment. So it's going to cost you CP to start bringing more detachments if you want to bring more C'tan units. So looking at his stat line then, movement 8 inch, weapon skill 2+, ballistic skill 2+, strength 7, toughness 7, wounds 9, attack 6, leadership 10 and a 4+ save. So monstrous stats there as you'd expect from a monster unit. His strength is slightly better than the Ctan of the Deceiver, which is an added bonus. Okay, so let's get stuck into his abilities then. So he's got living metal, regaining a lot of wound at the start of your turn. It's pretty handy because he's already got 9 wounds as well, so it's tough to get rid of him anyway. And the next ability actually pairs quite nicely with living metal. It's called Necrodermis. Not only does it give you a 4+ invuln save, but also the Nightbringer cannot lose more than 3 wounds per phase. So only if you're going up against like a well balanced faction that can do say 3 wounds in the psychic phase, 3 in the shooting phase and 3 in the combat phase, he's not going to be going down early. And as I mentioned already, with that living metal healing a wound as well, it's going to be tough. He has Enslaved Star God. So this one's actually a nerf to his datasheet. It means the model cannot take any relics, any warlord traits, and, this is the most important part, the Lookout Sir rule does not apply to your Nightbringer. So if you were thinking, brilliant, he's under 10 wounds, it doesn't work on him. He then has got Reality Unravels, so he blows up on a 4+ and causes D3 mortal wounds to everything within 6 inches. Then lastly on his abilities list, he's got Drain Life, which is each time you make a melee attack, the enemy unit cannot use any rules that ignore wounds, such as Disgustingly Resilient or any type of Feel No Pain roll. Okay, so you're probably aware that C'tan Shards have C'tan powers. The Nightbringer knows the Gaze of Death, so this is where you select one enemy unit within 9 inches and visible to the C'tan Shard. You roll 3 d6s and for each 4+, that unit suffers d3 mortal wounds. So this is pretty good as you've got the potential of throwing out 9 mortal wounds right off the bat, and you're going to be going near your enemies anyway, so that 9 inch isn't too bad. So he also knows another C'tan power from the powers list, which I'll go over in a moment. If your Nightbringer did not advance or fall back, then he can use both of his powers that he knows, but they can't be the same power. Okay, so going on to those powers then, there are 6 options here. You can either roll off for them or select them depending on what's agreed with your opponent. They're a bit like psychic powers, except you don't need to cast them and they cannot be denied. Okay, so power 1 is called Antimatter Meteor. You roll 1d6 on a 3, 4 or 5. The closest enemy unit within 24 inches that is visible to the C'tan suffers 3 mortal wounds, and on a 6 they suffer d3 plus 3 mortal wounds. So this one's really powerful as it's virtually like casting Smite and rolling a 6 for the d3 roll for the damage. And even has the potential of doing 6 mortal wounds, so it's quite a solid choice. The second one, times Arrow. Select one enemy unit within 18 inches and is visible to the C'tan. Roll 1d6, and if the total equals or exceeds the wounds characteristic of any models in that unit, your opponent selects one of those models to be destroyed. So this one can target characters. So you want to be targeting either like elites or HQ units that have between 2 and 4 wounds on their datasheet. Note that the wounds and damage is not being caused here, so any rules that ignore damage and wounds can't be used against this power. Power 3, Sky of Falling Stars. So you select up to 3 enemy units within 24 inches of the C'tan, and for each of those you roll a d6, and on a roll of a 1 to a 5, if the dice result is less than the number of models in the unit, that unit suffers d3 mortal wounds. So it's more easy mortal wounds here. Lots of units in the game have min squads of 5. So the roll should be pretty easy to do. Again, has the potential of 9 mortal wounds. Power 4, Cosmic Fire. So you roll 1d6 for each enemy unit within 9 inches of the C'tan. On a 4+, that unit suffers d3 mortal wounds. So this one's quite similar to the previous power, except it's not limited to 3 units, but the range is only 9 inch. So if you plan on getting very close, this one's quite good, as you'll be catching a lot of units within your 9 inch bubble, then D3 mortal wounds a pop. So power 5, seismic assault. Select one enemy unit within 18 inches that is visible to your C'tan Shard. Roll 1d6 for each model in the unit, and on a 6+, that unit suffers 1 mortal wound to a maximum of 10 mortal wounds. So this is your anti-horde power. So a squad of 20 on average will take around 3 mortal wounds here, which sort of matches the first power you can do. Units of 24 models or more on average will score for 4 mortal wounds, so that's where the power comes more useful. And finally, power 6 is transdimensional thunderbolt. You select one enemy unit within 24 inches and visible. You roll 1d6, and on a 2+, that unit suffers d3 mortal wounds. You then roll 1d6 for each other unit within 3 inches of the selected unit, and on a 4+, that unit suffers a mortal wound. So this one works well if your opponent has grouped a lot of their units together or played a horde type army. Tyranids are a good example here, as they tend to clump together for their synapse and other synergies. So as powers go, most of them sort of do the same thing, just with different ranges and quantities. I do like the look of Sky of Fallen Stars, as you can be throwing them out right from turn 1, as it's got a decent range, and it's pretty easy to do. Okay, so weapon loadout time. So the Nightbringer has a weapon named the Scythe of the Nightbringer, and you can use it with 2 different profiles. So before attacking with the weapon, you obviously choose your profile. So the first one is Reaping Sweep, which is strength user, which is strength 7, minus 3 AP and single damage. Each time an attack is made with this profile, make 2 hit rolls instead of 1. So first of all, this one's brutal, because instead of using 6 attacks, you're now actually getting 12 attacks at strength 7. The minus 3 AP leaves barely anything to save, so this will tear through most larger units. It'll even be effective against those meta marines with 2 wounds. So for the people that like quick maths then, 12 attacks hitting on 2s will land you an average 10 hits. And against toughness 3, it'll be 2s again, so you're going to be scoring about 8 or 9 wounds there. If you're using those 10 hits against toughness 4, 5 and 6 models, then you're going to require 3s to wound, so you're going to get on average between 6 and 7 wounds. Toughness 7 models will require 4s to wound, so then on average you're going to get about 5 wounds. So the other weapon profile is much stronger here. It's called Entropic Blow, so it's strength times 2, which makes it strength 14. It's minus 4 AP and damage D6. Each time an attack is made with this weapon profile, invuln saves cannot be made against this attack. So this one's nasty, as firstly there's no negative modifier to hit, which there usually is when you double the strength, and it's a straight 6 attacks at weapon skill 2, so you're going to come out of about 5 hits on average. Then unless you're fighting toughness 8, you're going to be wounded on 2s, scoring you about 4 wounds on average. No saving throws can be made. And don't forget that Nightbringers have the ability of Drain Life, which prevents your enemy from using any rules that ignore wounds, so there's virtually no saves allowed here. 4 wounds on average going through, and each one is a D6, so there's a lot of carnage going off with this weapon. It's pretty incredible. So moving away from that then, there's a few stratagems there for the C'tan Shards. Firstly, you've got the Strange Echoes. For 1 CP, you can swap out the C'tan's power for another one of the powers it doesn't know. Now at first this might appear of a waste of CP, as you think, why would I swap this out? Well, there's 2 reasons. Firstly, you may have actually randomly selected the power, so swapping out would make sense. But secondly, once you get your C'tan within 9 inch range, you may think you'd be better with a power that hurts more with units that are in closer proximity, such as the Cosmic Fire, which hurts every unit within 9 inch. That's just one example. I'm sure there are lots of situations where positionally your C'tan is in a far better position to use a different power. Just for 1 CP you can switch it. Another stratagem called Dimensional Destabilization, which costs your Nightbringer 1 CP, as he's not Titanic, otherwise it would be 2 CP. So you look at the powers of the C'tan table, roll a D6, use that roll and compare it to the powers of the C'tan table, and then you can use that power, even if it's already been used that phase. So it's a really good strat here, as the amount of mortal wounds that you're dishing out for each power is really hurting. So for 1 CP you can do a lot more. The first stratagem in the list for C'tan units is Entropic Strike. It costs 2 command points. You simply remove your opponent's invuln save. Now this doesn't have any use for your Entropic Blow profile, as it's already got this built in. But if you were to use your Reaping Sweep profile, which has double the amount of attacks, then they're not able to use invuns either. So characters or even horde units of demons with a 5+ save, they don't get their invuln save. So overall, this guy is a boss. He can kill pretty much anything in the game, whether it's a horde unit or whether it's Mortarion. He will demolish them. The sheer amount of mortal wounds this guy throws out is insane. His powers are very strong, and even when he dies, he blows up, dealing more damage. So if you let him get too close to you, you're in big trouble. So the issue here with this shard is getting into combat. Moving 8 inch is okay. You can't advance and still use both your C'tan powers. He's going to get shot down. He's not got the Lookout Sir rule applied to him, which is a huge flaw in my opinion. Now I know he can only take a maximum of 3 wounds per phase, so it's quite highly likely that he doesn't die on turn 1, but if he's not killing stuff by turn 3, he's pretty much a waste anyway, as your opponent will not allow him to get to your target without a fight. He's going to take a lot of gunning down, which does help the rest of your army with their survivability, but remember your investment of 350 points to put on this shard. So making his points back is quite a task. He needs to kill at least 2 solid units within the game. There's also the small issue of being tied up in combat. I mean, he does have fly, so he can fall back, but it is going to slow his progress slightly, and this gives your opponent more time to deal with him. So I'm really torn on his rating, and he's probably one of the best killing units in the game, period, but points for points is a huge gamble. There is the option of placing him in strategic reserve, which will cost you 2 CP, but then you're messing with his Ctan powers then, because they're not being used on the first turn, and potentially even the second. As for his rating though, I'm going to be giving the Nightbringer a Planet 40k rating of 4.5 out of 5. He's still a beast and he's still terrifying, and he's still going to cause a lot of carnage on the battlefield. Obviously in smaller games he's not going to be as useful because he's too expensive for those kind of patrol games, but in larger games he's going to be an absolute boss. Let me know in the comments if you fielded him and what happened. We'd love to hear your experiences with using him. What turn did you get him into combat? What did he kill? Did he whiff? Also guys, as I mentioned right at the start of the video, 68% of viewers aren't subbed to us. So if you are new and find these videos useful, hit that subscribe button and drop us a thumbs up. Thanks all for watching, and I will see you in the next one.